I'm Brandy, and this is Making It My Own DIYs. Welcome! Framed wall decor is our first piece. I have got some of my Rub and Buff wax and a brush, Mod Podge and a brush, just a little foam brush. I have a utility blade, a variety of ribbons. They are both wired, and a beautiful bag from Dollar Tree, $1.25. And I love the scene on this bag. It is beautiful, very bright and festive. Wouldn't we all love that house? So pretty. It's got the little family and the deer and the snowman. It's perfect. Then I'm going to use this foam board. This is like an artist board, I do believe. It's very thick. And the frame that I have already used one time before. We're going to give it a makeover and use it again. So I started off by taking this Rub and Buff. I think this is, you'll have to read what it says. I can't remember which wax this was, but I thought, first off, I wanted to see how this wax would layer. So I'm putting it on top of this metallic paint that I have in like a pure gold color, I think is what it is. And I'm using a brush that is actually a chalk paint brush. But I'm using it because it's tapered and it has lots of compact bristles, and I figured this would be really good for really getting good coverage and pressing it down in all those little depressed areas, making it nice and smooth. Now the color is absolutely gorgeous. I love it. But it looks to me more like something that you would see in fall rather than Christmas time. So then I thought, okay, well, we're definitely going to be layering this and see how it will look underneath an antiquing wax. So I rubbed back some of that Rub and Buff. I rubbed it off. Just a little. I am pressing down on it, but it's still, you know, I guess it dries fast. I don't know. It's different. It's not like a paint. It is definitely different, but I do like it for those of you who recommended it. Still learning though. So I started off using a paper towel because that's what I could reach. And paper towel's not a good idea. It falls apart, picks apart, so grab something else like a cheesecloth or a soft cotton cloth to kind of buff it out. And then because I wanted this to be more of a uniform coloring when we put the other wax on, I went ahead and did all the decorative pieces on this frame. So I went over each of the four corners with the wax and then wiped it off, or wiped it back instead of off. And then I used it on each of those little decorative pieces in the middle of those sides. Then once that is done and wiped back, I'm going to grab my antiquing wax. As you can see how I did it here. I'm going to layer this on top of this. I'm just putting a scrap piece of cardboard down there so I can get the stuff off of my brush. I'm using the same brush. I had already wiped it on a paper towel, and you can see I got pretty much every bit of it off. And then I'm going to start putting on this antiquing wax in like a circular motion, just so that it will get down in all the little crevices and all the little detail pieces in the, when I say depressions, I mean the low points, all the places that would naturally cast shadows, because I want to bring out all the details in this beautiful frame. So that's what I'm doing. And in the sides also, there's little beaded areas. I'm going to make sure that I get down in those really well. Made a big old mess, but this cleans up very easily with just a little bit of cleaning spray and paper towels. Not a problem. It's not paint. It's just the wax. And it comes off your hands pretty good too, because you know, I rarely use gloves. We're going to grab the bag. Clean your hands up, of course, after the wax. And yes, I have a fishing bobber band-aid on my finger, a traffic cone band-aid. Cut my finger making dinner in the slow cooker that morning, so I had to cover it up. It's got 2 band-aids on it, so y'all don't have to see anything gross. You're welcome. So I'm taking the tags off. You can use those ribbons again and the tag if you would like. Speaking of like, if you like this video, I would really appreciate a thumbs up. If you're new here, welcome, welcome, and I would love to have you as a subscriber if you are not already a subscriber. I also want to say thank you to everybody who has helped me get to the subscriber amount I am now, which is 91,000. I would love to reach 100,000 by the end of the year. So, we'll see. We'll see. I've had a couple of little curveballs thrown my way, and it's kind of got my focus in other things, but we'll see what happens. It's okay either way. I know there's a plan. All right. So I made sure to leave a little bit of extra on the sides. Yes, thank you for being here, taking time with me today. And I'm going to just fold that out, and then I'll go back in and cut it very slowly and cleanly down the lines where it folds over. I wanted to make sure in that first chop, taking it off of the bag, that I didn't cut into the picture. And sometimes it's kind of hard because you can't really lay it straight. But I knew I didn't want to destroy it, and it needs to be the rectangle shape that the picture actually is without me having jags and stuff all in it. So I put my glasses on, I grabbed scissors, and I started cutting right down the fold line. You can use a blade for this. You can use a rotary cutter, whatever you prefer. If you have one of those big pendulum cutters that you can get for scrapbooking, you can definitely use that too. Whatever makes it easiest for you to get a nice clean line, because you're going to be able to almost see the edges of this. You're going to get some options, okay? So here's that board. Now, I measured my frame, and it's 20 by 24. And that's not the opening, that's the actual outside of the frame itself. And I want to make sure that this covers the entire back, as well as becomes somewhat of a mat or a base to put the bag print on. So I just measured that off, and now I'm going to take my blade here, and I'm using a metal ruler and getting my fingers out the way, and I'm just going to cut down one side as far through it as I can get it without scratching the table. It's going to leave sort of a little flap, and then I just stood it up on the ground and then cut along that little flap so that I had an even piece. Now this will go essentially in the center. I'm going to use a ruler to make sure that I get this placed evenly between the sides and between the top and bottom, because it's going to be in the frame. We want it to be centered in the frame as much as possible. I want to see as much as I can of the beautiful print that's in there. I mean, this definitely, I've said it before, some of these look like Thomas Kincaid. Those lights shining in those windows are so bright and vivid. They just kind of brings that print to life, and I love that. Very joyful, very happy. And I think with something like this, if you can reuse your frame, if you can use a frame, from something else, take the picture out, do this, you're going to save yourself a lot of space, and you don't have to hang it on the wall. You could always lean it on your mantle if you wanted to, but it's such a festive, happy piece to look at. I'm going to take the wider of the ribbons to frame this out. This is red with a little bit of gold around it. I chose that because of the red and gold in the lights and in the picture itself. And I'm just trying to decide here how far down I want to go, just to slightly overlap on the print and to go over the edges. Instead of using hot glue, which you could possibly see through your ribbon, I did a top piece and I used that as a marker for the bottom piece, and then I will also do the sides. I decided to overlap it and just glue it on the back. And then when your picture is finished, you could always put craft paper on the back to cover it up if you wanted to do that. So again, rather than putting the glue right down on it or using double stick tape, which I tried and it did not hold, I'm just going to cut it where it's long enough to wrap around. I'm going to check it, hold it while I flip it over so I don't lose my place. And now I know where I need to put my glue. So the back of this foam board is a paper, just like the front is. So anything you can glue to paper, you can glue to this stuff. Wrap around. And then, of course, doing it this way and gluing it just on the back, it would be easy for you to take this off and use it for something else. Like I used double stick tape to put that bag down, for another season or holiday. I could change that bag out and put it back on the frame. because I just used double stick mounting tape to hold it to the frame. So this would be really easy to redo. And you know that helps this time of year when you're trying to stretch your dollar and you're trying to keep your budget reasonable. You want to keep it reasonable. You want to have nice decor, but you also want to be able to give some gifts to people. So this way you can save a little bit of money and, you know, still have something pretty in your house. So I hope y'all like this idea. I do this quite a bit. I just really think that it's a good way to get a more expensive look. So I'll just take the end pieces and I'll do them the same way as I did the top and bottom pieces, and I'm just going to overlap them, but you could put them underneath there. You could do the sides first and then the front. It really does not matter. I could also have used the thinner ribbon. Might have been able to see the white under there, but who knows. Okay, so the frame has been drying with that wax on it for about, I don't know, probably 30 minutes or so. So now I'm taking a piece of cheesecloth, a towel. You can get these from Dollar Tree, and I just kind of balled it up. I like to cut mine in pieces so they go a little bit further. And now I am just sort of rubbing this off. Antiquing wax you can rub off to some extent. I'm not trying to dig down into all the areas, but you get the idea. And now it looks a lot better, I think, with the colors that's already in there and the trees. I think this definitely looks better. Look how pretty that is, just trimmed out in that beautiful red velvet. I like it a lot. So here's the double stick mounting tape. I have this linked below for you. I get mine from TEMU. If you don't want to get yours from TEMU, you can get alien tape, gorilla tape. I can't remember the other types of tapes, and you can use those to attach yours down. Or you could use a stapler, whatever you like. But this way I can take it off and I can use this frame again. And I'm going to do this on each side, and I actually set some heavy books on mine for just a minute or so to make sure that it didn't bow up. And everything is still together. I'm making a very simple bow. I don't know why I cut that part out. That was an accident, but just make a simple little shoestring bow. Y'all can see that pretty much in any of my videos. Taking a thin piece of gold sheer ribbon, going around the middle, because we're not going to cover up the center of the bow. I want it to look like it belongs there. And what a nice thick ribbon. I'm so glad I've thrifted this. I wouldn't even begin to know how much you'd pay for a ribbon like this full price. Well, I wouldn't do it anyway. I'd be using 2 pieces of cheaper ribbon or something. I don't know. But yeah, it's a good ribbon. It's a very good ribbon. And there's that bow. So you could put your bow on the top if you wanted to. Oh yeah, I wanted to show you. I took that thinner ribbon and went all the way around the outside. It covered up the edge of the whiteboard and the edge of the frame, so you could not see it. Not required. I just thought it would be a little something extra and unexpected. And I decided I wanted the bow on the bottom so that it wouldn't show, it wouldn't cover up the picture, and we'd be able to see all the beautiful details. So I'm just going to take a piece and I'm going to ball up a piece of that double stick tape. It was what I had left on that roll. Stick it on there and then press the center of the bow right down in there. Just going to hold it a second to help it grasp onto it. Pull up the heck out of that bow, because you know how we do it on this channel. And there you go. I really do hope that you're inspired by this and that you can pick something up and make something special your own. Here it is with my shaky photography, just to give you a better look of how it would be in lighting in your home instead of my studio lights. And I like it. Look at those little snowmen in the corner. So cute. You could take that bag apart and use it for so many crafts. And I hope that you got some inspiration for this one piece. Now we're going on to the next. The sled ornament is next. I'm going to use a little Mary cutout. Any little wood cutouts at Dollar Tree. A walnut furniture repair marker, also from Dollar Tree, as well as this little sled. It's just a little wood sled ornament and just a miniature little decorative ball. I've got some scraps of evergreen branches also. And then we're going to take the side of the bag we just used and cut that print out. It does have a fold in the middle, but we're going to fold against the original fold. and we're going to use it anyway. So I'm going to push out that hanger and set it aside. I'm going to throw the tag away. I'll take my furniture repair marker, and I am going to color the, what do you call these? The skids. We're going to color those, and then we're going to color the top and the bottom, all this walnut color. You can use your stain, you can use your antiquing wax. I said top, but no, we're not going to put any on the top. We're going to put something else on the top. And then we're also going to go over the Mary and let those two just dry for just a minute. They're pretty quick at drying. I'll use a little bit of my Mod Podge on here with a brush. And because this bag has sort of a plastic overlay, it's not just paper, you can be a little bit more generous with the Mod Podge. It's a little bit thicker too. So I'm just going to put that down in there. Press out the little seam. You see me kind of working on that like I'm ironing it out, right? I'm like ironing it out, pushing it down, so it's not as noticeable. I'm going to go all the way around, making sure that I put a little bit of pressure on the edges so that everything sticks where it should. I don't think the glue stick would have worked on this, but you use whatever type of adhesive that you like to use. It's just a little thicker. You know how the bags are, right? Okay, now I'm going to take my little micro sander and I'm going to go all around my edges. You can use a sanding block, a piece of sanding paper. You can use an emery board, fingernail file, whatever you want to use here. And I am going to sand down and away to give me a nice crispy edge. You can even do this on curves. Just take your time so you don't tear. Take your time. It's tempting to just grab it and rip it off of there, but don't do that. Take your time. It's going to be worth it. There you go. I wanted to remind you today that you are not alone. We all have problems. Just because you see me over here on YouTube and I try to give y'all funny little things and laugh and giggle with you because that's important to me. That doesn't mean that I don't have problems. You know, I'm human just like you guys are. And I want you to know that you're not alone. So when you send me an email or you give me a comment and it is something that is personal to you, it touches me. And I'm glad that you feel safe here in this community. And I want you to always feel safe and welcomed in this community. And I think you can tell when you comment and other subscribers and viewers comment and give you support. I think that is the most loving, generous thing that anyone can do for anybody else, is just give them some time and let them know that they're important and that they're heard. Okay? So now I'm going to grab some of my glue over here and I am going to rub it on the back because I don't want it to gush out, and I'll wipe off the excess. You'll see me just do it with my finger because I'm messy like that. And then just a tad of hot glue to hold it in place until my better glue has time to bond. And we're just going to put it right in the center, right over that fold line. We'll take that original hanger, poke it back through. I'm going to poke it from the outside so the little plastic part's on the inner side. And you could change this to a thin ribbon or some baker's twine if you want to, depending on what kind of decor you have. This is more of a rustic look, I think, that I'm creating here. So you can just, if you wanted to, put your two pieces across each other. But it seemed to me a little too wide. I want it to be not as wide, but a little more thick. So I'm just using one of them to go across, and then we'll cut the other one into pieces and add those on top of that. I'm also going to add that little bauble right in the middle. I like that it looks snowy. I think that that's appropriate for the sled. Then you just see me cutting these apart, and I'll add a little bit of glue. And you can grab any type of greenery that you like, whatever you want to use on here. Now, you don't have to use anything. You could put a little miniature poinsettia on there, or you could just leave it. You could just leave it with your paper and your word if you wanted. But I think that this is cute, really quick. And that's 2 projects out of 1 bag, right? Not bad. I mean, we're saving our money like that. Definitely. It's easy. This is very beginner friendly. And I really do hope that you were inspired by this one. I've done lots of ornaments, lots of Christmas ornaments on this channel. So you got plenty to look for if you're interested in making your own. I got a lot A lot of videos on them. I love y'all. The decorative candle is going to be next. By far the easiest one. We've got a Dollar Tree candle here. Some double stick tape. Also going to need our glue gun and this bag. Yes. Look at this. It is a soy ink and it's made in the USA. Did y'all know that? I never really paid attention. So again, we're going to take the hanger out and we're going to choose which piece we want. And I decided that I wanted to use, you're going to use your scissors, of course. I decided that I am going to cut this entire picture out and just choose one piece. So the magic word for this video for a chance to enter in and win a box of goodies from my channel is going to be glitter. And I want you to put the word glitter in the comments and then let me know, are you for glitter or against glitter? You gotta have both of those in your comment in order for a chance to win, and you will know Thursday if you have won. Good luck. All right, so I'm sort of measuring to see how much I'm gonna need, and I'll start by just taking a cut here. I'm not even measuring, y'all. This is totally eyeballed, so you know, you might not even have a ruler. I know I don't want the piece that's got a hole in it, so I'm just going to cut that piece off. I know I want the tree in there, and I do want that beautiful little cabin. Again, just laying it down, marking where I need it, and I will cut that across. Luckily, I cut a square piece. Very luckily. And then when you fold it around, depending what angle you get the beautiful tree. You get that little fall-looking tree and the cabin. Oh, so pretty. So I'll start off by using a little bit of double stick tape. I'm going to put that down on here first. And this is Jot, so this does come from Dollar Tree. So you can definitely pick some of that up. You probably have to look where the stationery and the pens and stuff like that are, but maybe not. It's Christmas time. Maybe you can find it with the wrapping paper. I'm going to fold this over, and that happened to be a piece that was on the side that already had a nice clean edge. It does hold it, but I need it to be even tighter, so I'm just going to use my glue gun and just smear it. That's what you see me doing, is sort of smearing that under the edge so this lays flat from the seam all the way over, and it will look like that it is made this way. If you don't get your edges right, take a utility knife and sort of even it up. But we're going to also use something else to cover up the edge of the trim in case you don't get it square. This is some beautiful rickrack that I got at the thrift store, of course, that I'm loving. And I'm going to put this around this candle on the top edge around the picture and the bottom edge. Now, is this completely fireproof? Doubt it. Doubt it. Do not ever leave a candle unattended, period. If you have one of these where you've already used I think they're called emergency candles, I don't know, and you've already used it, the jar would be perfect, and put an artificial candle down in it. Absolutely perfect. I'm going to trim it, glue it, and there's the bottom piece. I'm going to go down here, add a little bit of glue, put that down, going over the edge, making sure it is pretty even from the top so we don't have a zigzag rickrack. Oh boy, zigzag rickrack. And there she is in all of her glorious beauty. What an easy project. And you know, every one of these projects could be given as gifts very easily. And you have saved yourself a ton of money using 2 bags and some bits and pieces from Dollar Tree. I don't know why I love this candle so much. I'm sure you could buy a decorative candle that's really pretty and that you really love, but to get exactly the print that you like, this is perfect. Look at that. That's making my little forever fall heart so happy. Okay, so the first is going to be an ornate gift box. You're going to need a little vintage piece or vintage inspired piece. This is not authentic. I'm going to use some table scatter in blue and white, a little wreath, and I just thrifted this, but it needs to be flexible. Got some pink little berries or flower pods, got greenery, and some of this white holly. I'm going to use a little box from Dollar Tree. It's square, and you're going to use the top and the bottom.
Then you get to do the fun part, picking all the trims and frills that go on. I'm going to use that pink, and then we have a variety of blue. This looks kind of snowy, and here's some vintage ribbon, and this is also vintage. Okay, so now you get to pick your papers. I am going to use this one and that glittery one, and they came from this pack. Alright, so you're going to remove that sticker and feel the satisfaction of it coming off pretty much in one piece, because that always makes me happy. It's the little things, y'all. It's the little things. Okay, so we're going to take that box apart, set the top aside, grab your pencil, and let's start making some panels for the sides of the box. I'm going to measure this from the top to the bottom sideways. Get the ruler and extend that line. Then we're going to cut out the strip. We're going to do the same thing on the silver glittery paper. Gorgeous paper, by the way. Cut that one out. And then you can save the other pieces for other decorations if you want to. Put them aside, you can save them. Then we're going to need 2 of the blue and 2 of the glittery silver. We're going to cut the panels down to the measurements of the sides of the box. And instead of using a ruler, I'm just going to trace it down here. Just put the box on it and cut it down. You're going to need to cut those pieces after you get the silver and the blue done, because we're going to have silver on 2 sides and the blue on 2 sides. Now the blue paper is not vintage, but it is vintage inspired, and that's what this video is going to be like. So it's going to be inspired. It's going to have some elements of retro, and it's going to be mixed in with a little bit of, you might want to call it shabby chic. I'm not entirely sure what you would call it. So I'm going to just use hot glue. You can do anything you want to glue this down, any type of glue. Hot glue works best for me when I am doing these projects for you guys, so that's what I use. But you can definitely use double stick tape or whatever you like to use here, as long as you get your sides down evenly as possible on your box. Now don't worry if you have a hair of it hanging over, because we're going to be able to trim that down shortly, and I'll show you how we're going to do that. Okay, so if you don't like the look of this, you can do all of one color. I just like the difference here. This beautiful trim was given to me by a sweet lady not too very long ago, at the beginning of summer, I do believe, and it is beautiful for this piece. This came from Dollar Tree, and y'all, this ribbon is actually adhesive, so you can just peel the back off, and I didn't even know it when I picked it up. So you're going to pull this around. I'm putting mine right to the bottom edge, lining it up with the bottom edge of the top of the box, holding it straight in my hand and just pulling off a little of that backing as I need and as I go. I'm going to cut it off and then make sure that I've got it all pressed down and I'm liking the look. I'm going to start in the corner and grab that trim. And a lot of what we're doing now is going to be kind of repetitive, because you're going to put the stuff on top and you're going to kind of layer it on there to give it a lot of texture. You can certainly use any type of lace that you have or trim. That would be really pretty, whatever you like. I just thought for this vintage video that we would do some pinks and blues, because I have not done this before. And I think the colors are really, really pretty. They're soft and pretty, and they look retro to me. Alright, so we're going to continue along, and I'm going to put this beautiful trim down here. You can see the glitter through the trim, the pink trim that I have there, and then I've got this on top of it, so we're layering it up, making it look luxe. We're going to cut it off and make sure that everything is glued down nicely so you don't have anything coming apart. Try to keep those lines nice and straight if you want to achieve a high-end look. Look how adorable this is. Cute. So I'm just going to grab an emery board and just kind of file down, and then sometimes after I file down and to the side, I'm going to go back over it in the other direction. That's going to give you kind of a white edge. You're going to see that paper under there. If you don't like that, you can take a little bit of antiquing wax and run your finger down those seams, and it'll give an old look. And then I'm going to, this is on like thick wire, so I'm just going to bend the wire and to make this into a square so that I can get this down on top of the wreath of the box. And you don't have to do this. You don't have to make it a square. You can keep it a circle. It's totally up to you. That is your preference. On this channel, I encourage you to make it your own. If it brings you joy, then you're doing the right thing. Okay? So I'm going to go on the corners because mine is a square. I've bent it into a square, and I'm just going to press this down. I thrifted this little piece, but you can get little wreaths like this just practically anywhere. Now I can't put my weight in the center, so I'm going to put a ruler in the middle and hold it down with that weight until it is dried. And now this is how it's going to look. I'm going to take those pieces of greenery and pull them back so that there's a little more in the center. It's going to make a little well in the center, almost like a nest. Then I'm going to take these beautiful pieces and cut those off. And I encourage you to use any colors, anything you like. If you have all white and you want to use all white, go for it. I think that would be beautiful as well. So I've cut down the pieces that I think I'm going to need. I'm going to take a little bit of foam, and this just came out of some packing materials I had. And then I'm going to have enough of a stem there where I can poke it into that foam. And I'm just kind of doing it at a low angle. And I'm going to make a square. So you'll see there's, or an X, I guess, if you want to look at it that way. And then I'll go in between those and add in another layer. I'm flexing the wire in there so that it gives it a little body and it stands up just a little bit. We like the dimension, so that's what we're going to do here. That dimension that we always talk about as crafters, it just gives you something to keep the eye busy. It gives you, it's kind of that thing that keeps you looking. It draws your attention, you know? And I like that. I like that there's, look at that. See all the layering in there? I think that's really pretty. It makes your pieces look unique and high-end, and I think pretty much we all achieved that, strive to achieve that, don't we? Okay, so I'm going to take some of this holly, and yes, this is vintage holly. It does have dust on it, but it also has glitter on it. So I did the best I can to get all of the dust off of them, but they still have a slight aged color, and I'm totally fine with that because it matches the vintage idea or the retro idea, right? Our little throwback bird. Okay, so I'm going to trim this down so that I can put a little bit of these little flowers or berries, whatever these are, right in the middle of each little clump of the holly. And the little bird I got at Dirt Cheap in a pile of stuff that came from Target. So you may find one at a garage sale. You may have something around your house that would work perfectly in here. And you can always use Velcro if you want to, if you don't want to destroy or if you want to reuse your piece. Just be gentle with it. Okay, then I'm going to add some of the scatter in here. We'll take some pieces of the white picks that I pulled the holly off of, and we'll have some that are going to be a little bit higher. And you're going to see these in different areas because I do move them around a little bit until I get them where I think they fit best. I'm just looking at it from all angles. Remember, you need to check it out fully before you make a final decision. I'm going to take some of that silver rickrack, and I am going to pull that down into just a really simple bow, nothing complicated for this. Then I will cut it off and add a little glue to her neck so that she has a very pretty little bow. Now I'm cutting down these little pieces of this snowy looking stuff that I thrifted. And you can also use the white kind of meshy looking ribbon that you get at Dollar Tree. That I think would look great here as well. This is a little glittery, so I think that I like it in here, so that's why I'm using it. And these are essentially little tails. They're not actually a bow, but it gives a little something else, and it gives a little, again, depth and dimension to your project. So it's about 3 or 4 inches long, and I pinch it in the middle after I've dovetailed it, and then just push the tails up together, holding it in the middle. That's going to make those cute little flyaway looking pieces, and I'm just going to tuck them around just here and there, you know, where I feel like it's balanced and where it looks good. And fluff it out, make sure it's pretty. Ooh, I almost dropped her. I love the movement in here. I do see that I want to trim down that one little table scatter on the top there. It is a little bit too long, so I'm just going to take my wire cutters. I like to cut these pieces at an angle because they pierce down into the foam much easier. Much, much easier. So there's a little tip for you. And I'm just going to press it down. And now I like that. That looks a little more balanced to me. I'm going to take another little piece of holly. This is like the end piece where it's small and compact, and put it right behind her. And I think that really, really, really showcases that precious little bird. Okay, so now we are back to our box. Let's work on the bottom. Okay, so we're going to put the same coordinating trim on the bottom. And I want to remind you here, do this your way. Do this however you like it. If you want to layer ribbons the entire way, you do that. If you don't want to put anything on the bottom, you do not have to do that either. I love making these little gift boxes because you can use these either as decoration. You can give them as a gift. You could put a gift card in there, some candy in there, and give them as a gift, so the person is getting not only what's inside the box, but they have a keepsake that they can put out for years to come. Now we're going to double that up. I'm going to add some more of that beautiful vintage ribbon on top. And then we're going to put the top back on. Now, turn your top upside down, fold up the trim, and then put the box into the lid. It could be a bit of a little tight squeeze, but just, you'll get it in there. Just work with it. And then put the trim back down. She is a little beauty for sure. I really like this, and I hope that you try to make something like this yourself. She's a cutie pie. The next project is going to be a mini mold tree. We're going to use these little jello molds. I have 3 in 3 different sizes. I have a base. This is going to be our base. It's just a little metal candle holder. We're going to use a paint tray and some paint. You can choose. I want to have a paint that's going to match closest to the color of the eyes on the bird and what's going on in the paper. Some paint brushes, of course. We're also going to be using some glitter and some Mod Podge. All right. Now, if you like the look that's already on there, go ahead and leave it that way. I wanted to change it to more of a silvery tone. So this one's a little bit newer than the other two, so the colors did not match up. Now, if I was doing rustic, I would have left them just like this, probably added some antiquing wax to them to really show the age, but not for this project. Okay, so I'm going to do 2 in silver, 1 in blue. The middle one is going to be in blue. Then I'm going to go all over this base in this silver as well. When they're dry, this is how they're going to look. And I like this much better. This is 2 layers of paint on this blue one. I'm just going to grab some glossy Mod Podge, put it in this is like a lid from a treat. Then I'm going to grab my glitters too. I think it was from cotton candy, as a matter of fact. You'll need a container to mix your glitter, so we're going to do silver, white, and blue. Give it a good shake there. We're going to dip this just like we're making margaritas, ladies. Yes, like you're making a margarita. You're going to rim that. You're going to put it down in your bucket and kind of jiggle it around a little bit until it is covered in that beautiful glitter. And when you pull it out, it's going to have this beautiful multicolored frosty edge. We'll go ahead and do that blue one as well, and then we'll do the other piece. And when you put these down, be sure you put them upside down on the paper so that they will dry, or whatever surface that you're using, your mat or whatever you're using. You know how glitter is. There's a lot of glitter in my craft area, I can tell you that. Okay, so here are all 3 of those. You're going to set them aside and let them dry, of course. And while they're drying, we're going to take the rest of that Mod Podge and empty it down in here. It's almost like when I use this, it's not like a resin, but you're almost doing because we're doing a thick layer and we're going to put glitter on this thick layer, it makes it really thick. There's no sparse areas. Like when it's dried, It is absolutely stunning. You don't see the Mod Podge at all you see is the glitter. So I'm really just going to pour all the rest of that glitter on there. I'm shaking it because you can't move it around once it hits that Mod Podge. So be sure that you sprinkle it out all over that little base, whatever base you're using. Tap it around. If it wants to move a little bit, that's fine. You can always take the rest of it once it's dry and tap it out into a tray. And then you can use the rest of that separately. Let the lids, well, not the lids, the molds dry, and then we're going to put down a base. So this is going to be a Christmas tree, so we need to take our base and press it down in there. This is just like a little spool for some, I think this was from some ribbon from Target maybe, and it was broken. I'm pressing it down in there and patting it down with my fingers so you don't see any disruption. Now everything's nice and smooth. And then I'll be using these wood blocks. Now y'all, I promise you, I don't try to copy anybody else's projects. However, when I was working on this, I did see that somebody on, where was that? Pinterest, I think, did a method similar to this. So I'm not copying anybody. I thought I was being original, but there you go. It has been done before, but this is my version of it. Let's put it that way. Okay, so this is going to be the base of our Christmas tree. Once you get your little wooden blocks glued in there, so you've got some dimension and some openings, so you want to have a little bit of shade in between each one, so they're spaced somewhat evenly. And you're going to have to let that dry overnight. But let's go ahead and embellish the top. We're going to take one of these beautiful little bird picks. This was on clearance at, I think it was Hobby Lobby last year. We're going to add some hot glue here and put a little bird topper. How about that? Use whatever type of topper. We made a decorative box today, a little stacked tree, and 4 ornaments in a pink and blue and silver theme. We're going to start off with a retro Christmas banner. We're going to use 3 of these little banner pieces from Dollar Tree. Could be rectangle or square. I have some rickrack that I'm going to use. These are some postcard looking thingies that I got from TEMU in a big pack. Oh, they're actually a paper banner, I think. I've got some sparkly ribbons in white and red. We are going to start by taking these apart. We're going to take the burlap or the jute off of here. It's very easy to do. You just push that plastic piece down, take it right off. Then we're going to take off our tags because today we are going to be working on the back of the sign. But we're going to make it easy enough that you can easily peel this stuff off and use it for another project if you would like. How about that? Okay, so we're going to sand these down. These pieces are notoriously rough and will splinter up your little pinkies, so just be sure that you get it nice and smooth on both sides so when you're handling this you get no bobos. Alright, I'm going to wipe off the dust, any that is left on there, and clean it off. And then I'm going to take my awl and go in each one of these little holes where the string will go. So you could use baker's twine, you could use some more jute, you could use rickrack like I'm doing, or some type of a thin ribbon, or cording, whatever you like. This is going to make it easier because it will take out any rough areas that might snag when you're trying to push them through those little holes. You see the difference that it makes when you do that? Makes it nice and smooth. Look at the difference. Alright, now we're going to be embellishing this with some ribbon instead of painting it. I'm going to take the white. You can still see through it. You see, I can see where those holes are punched in there, and that's exactly what I want, so that's perfect. I'm just going to make sure that I have enough to go across all of these and fold over so that on the black side we can glue or tape this down. Alright. Easy to do. This is exactly the same size, so it worked out perfectly. I'm going to hold it, flip it over, add a little hot glue, and then press it down. I want to make sure that it's lined up nicely so we don't have to put any extra glue underneath the front. I'm going to pull it taut, wrap it around, and then tack it in place. Be sure you protect your little fingers. I don't want anybody getting hurt. Okay, so now there's all 3 of them. And we're going to start with the next layer of ribbon. Right underneath the lip of the top part, I'm going to add a strip of red. You don't have to do this step.
And what if you don't have those TEMU banner pieces that I have? Well, Dollar Tree happens to have 50-cent cards, and then they have some cards I think that are maybe $1 or $1.25. You can just find some cards that you really like. Mine just happened to be in a vintage theme, but they've got some really pretty ones at Dollar Tree that you can give a try if you would like. See, this goes along very easily. I would even call this, you know, a beginner type of project. All right, so now I'm just going to lay these down, and although they are very close to exactly the right size, there's still a little bit of a gap when I space them the way I like them. I could always pull it straight to the bottom, that would be fine, but I like the way that the glittery red kind of frames it when we put a strip across the bottom. So I'm going to just do the same thing here and just cut these down into 3 pieces, and then we'll go across the bottom in the exact same way that we did with the top. Very easy to do. I love these little retro banner pieces. They're so pretty, and I have worked with a lot of, this is not sponsored by TEMU, y'all. This isn't sponsored. If you don't like TEMU or you have opinions, we don't need to discuss that here. I have worked with them, and you know, I don't have a problem with any of their products. We get a little different type of look instead of the same old stuff that everybody's doing at Dollar Tree all the time. And so it works for me, works for my business model, okay? And I want to keep things inexpensive for you guys because that's what this channel is about. All right, so now we've got like a little framework. We could just put that right on there, and I love the way that looks. So I'm going to add a little bit of hot glue. Now, when you do this, you don't need to go nuts with hot glue, and you could actually use a different type of adhesive if you want to do that. But as I've said before when I'm doing the videos, I need to use something that's going to work quickly so that you can see these projects. Since it's 2 videos a week that I do, I need to be sure I get this material out for y'all because I know that you depend on me, and I want to be dependable. Look at that. I like that. Now, if you don't have the different color ribbons, or you don't like to do it this way, think of all the different things that you could do on yours. Maybe you could paint it. If you're not planning on reusing this, you could just paint the whole thing, right? You could definitely do that. You could use, for the pictures, if you can't find cards you like, get a bag or a package of Christmas boxes. They're beautifully decorated. You can get them in a variety of sizes, and they would work great for projects like this as well. These are so sweet. I love that nostalgic look. All right, so these are just some little mini bows. You could probably get these anywhere. Actually, I think these might have come from the clearance at Hobby Lobby last year. I think the clearance section. I am just going to take the wire that is around the middle and just kind of wrap it back on itself toward the back to give me a little something else to hold that glue. And then right over the original little spots where the banner would have taken the ribbon or the thread or whatever you use there, it's a little hole punch there. I'm just going to cover that up with these cute little bows. I think it's a nice little embellishment, but you certainly don't have to do it if you don't like it. You could add another strip of ribbon right across the top. You could cover it up, or you could just leave it like that, right? So many options when you are making it your own. So many. And I'm just going to continue and do that for the top of each one. We don't have to do anything to the bottom, and I like the bows on the top anyway. I think if we did it on the bottom, it might just overdo it. Okay, so there's my awl, and we are going to start really getting these things put together, making one piece. I'm going to hold my ribbon in place and use that awl to punch right through the ribbon. This is, I don't know what type of fabric or material this ribbon is, but it's kind of papery. So, you know, just keep that in mind. If a different type of ribbon might not give you the same result, but it's working for me here. All right, so now we have our holes punched back in the top. I have a little piece of a greenery wire or stem that I have cut at a slant. It makes a very good little pokey tool. Yes, it's a pokey tool. And you just keep something like this by your table and it makes it easier. You could also use, if you were using baker's twine or some type of a thin thread, you might could get one of those plastic needles to thread through there so you could put your project together a little more easily. I do realize that for those of us who have carpal tunnel, who have vision problems, who have arthritis, who have neuropathy, sometimes working with pieces this small can be difficult. So, you know, nothing wrong with asking for a little help once you get to this point. If there's somebody around who's handy and has some young eyes and hands, let them help you out here. Now look at how cute the rickrack turned out on here. Once I get it through, of course. Look how cute. It looks like an extra piece of embellishment or trim at the top, and I can't get enough of it. Continue along, put the next one on, and as I'm doing this, I'm trying to ensure that I'm keeping the rickrack from getting twisted all up. See, I'll just go behind when I put it through and make sure that it lays flat. I don't want a twisty mess. I want it to actually look nice and neat. And I won't have to glue this in place because it will stay straight across the top where we leave it. It just makes, that little pokey tool just makes everything so much better. So much better. Y'all, it is already the 27th of November. Where has time gone? Again, another year that is almost over, and I'm left thinking, what did I do this year? What did I do? What did I accomplish? How about you? Do you sometimes think that? Where in the heck did the year go? Ugh, it's a lot. But hey, you know what? It was a great year because I had you here with me, and that means the world to me. Okay, so now if you want to embellish, you can. You could add little ornaments on here. You could add beads, depending on what style you have or what you like. Totally up to you. But for me, I think I'm going to leave it as it is. I'm going to grab my glossy Mod Podge, although it really doesn't matter what formula you use for this. And I'm going to go over the little areas where the snow is on my bell picture. You can definitely grab up some glitter and use glitter on this if you really want some sparkle. Last year I had glitter everywhere. There's probably glitter down in my studio that has been there for years. I'm almost certain it is. Yeah. You just can't get rid of it, right? You have to be selective. At Christmas time is the time to be selective with the glitter. But I decided, let's do something different. Maybe you don't have any glitter. Maybe you could use some table salt or some fake snow. If you don't have fake snow, maybe you could use something else. What do you think that you could use on here that would be something like snow or ice? Maybe, I wouldn't say sugar. I think the ants would enjoy the sugar though, but no, I wouldn't say sugar. There's just, you got so many options here. You could also go over these sections with some puff paint. Really give it some definition if you wanted. So for Santa, I'm going to go over his little hair, his hat, his beard, and then a little bit on the top of each one of the little deer's heads. Because they're standing outside and it's nice and snowy. And I also put a little bit on the snowflakes that are on there as well, but just a little. These are just extra little things that you can do to bring your projects up a notch, to make them a little more unique, but they're not required. You know, it all depends on where you're at in your crafting journey and how confident you are with your crafting. But I have to say, don't be shy with crafting. If you do it and it makes you smile and it brings you some joy, and that's exactly what you needed, right? We all need more joy in our life. Nothing wrong with having a little childlike fun. So I'm just mashing it down just a little bit with my fingers, just kind of patting it to make sure that everything is sticking down in the Mod Podge. And on this one, we've got the little Frosty, and I'm just going around on the little snowman, right on the top of his hat, on the top of his gloves, some on the bell, and then some on the little, you can see what I'm doing, the little roof of the house and on the sides. I don't want to overwhelm him and completely cover him in the frost, in other words. We'll just say that he's packed down snow, so it's fine. All right? So I'll give it just a minute, you know, kind of let it stick a little bit better, dry just a tad. And then I'm going to tap these off, and I'll put that snow back in the bag because I'm cheap like that. No, I'm not cheap. I'm thrifty. That's what it is. I like that better. Okay, so once that is done, put it back in the bag like I mentioned. Get you a Ziploc bag, save it. You can always use it again. I'm going to take a clean, dry brush and just sort of, you know, tighten this up a bit. Flick this off of the ribbon and the places where the snow doesn't necessarily need to be. Just cleaning it up. I just like the way this looks because if you have it all over the card, you can't necessarily see the detail. Of course, that could just be a vision problem for me. Hopefully that's not an issue for you. All right, now you can easily see here how we're going to tie off the ends. And by the way, if y'all want more than a 3-piece here, you can do more. as many as your heart desires. You can do 12 if you want to. Totally up to you. This is just a little way to show you how to do it to get you inspired to make one for yourself. Wouldn't the kiddos love this? You could put this across your kitchen window, and when you're cooking Christmas dinner or cookies and the grandkids or kiddos come over, they could see this and really enjoy it. You can watch my videos on Mondays and Thursdays at 6 p.m. It is free to subscribe. See you in the comments. The next is a retro Santa sign. Alright, so here we go again with some ribbon. You can use red, you can use white, you can use fabric kind. I'm going to use some more of that red rickrack, of course. I'm going to use some of this beautiful fabric from Dollar Tree. Very pretty. And this little sign that I got from TEMU. The little canvas that I got from TEMU. Very pretty. It's an 8x10. Nice little piece. And then I have a larger canvas that I got at the thrift store, so there was no information on the package. I'm just going to measure it for you. You can see what our measurements are. You can get some canvases at Dollar Tree too. And what if you don't have a canvas? Let's go back to that. So if you don't want to buy a canvas, what can you use? Get another box top. Right now in Dollar Tree, you can probably find 3 at least that would be suitable for a project like this. And all you have to do is just trim it out and then you can use it. So I'm going to take the fabric, and you know, you could do something like a Mod Podge on here if you wanted to, but to make it quicker and also into something that I could take apart. I'm going to protect my pinkies here. You can use the fabric over the board with a little hot glue. So just don't go crazy with the hot glue, and you should be able to peel these off, especially when they get cool temperatured. So if you needed to use these pieces again, you could. I'm just going to press that down in there. Everything is going to get pulled taut, but not too tight, because I don't want to distort the fabric and have it looking into a weird wave pattern or something. I'm just going to do the long sides first, and then I will switch it around and work on closing up the ends. Now I like to do mine with fabric as I would when I'm wrapping a present. It's just, I don't know, it's just easy to do. It's a pretty neat way to close the back up, so that's what I'm going to show you how to do. And then if you have another idea of how you want to do it, you are welcome to do that. But I like this because my corners won't come undone. They'll stay nice and crisp. Just folding it into a triangle, adding some glue there, and then I'll flip that fabric up onto the glue. That's easy enough, right? Then this part can either be trimmed down, or if you want to make it even nice and neater, you could fold it under and then grab your hot glue and press it down. And you'll do this process on both sides until it is done, of course. Yeah, look at that. Nice. That's a nice clean base to work with, and look how beautiful that looks against there. To me, that is not too busy of a look. It's very simple. Now you could get busy with it, really easy. You really could. We're not going to do it that way. Now I'm going to just trim this out with some of that red glittery ribbon, and I'll do each side, and then I will also measure and cut the top and bottom. I choose to leave these a little bit long because I'm not the kind of person who's going to get a ruler or tape measure out on a regular basis. I just work really too quickly for that, and it slows me down. I'm also going to grab some buttons. Now, first go around, I used the glue stick here. This is a regular, like a purple glue stick, to put the ribbon onto the canvas. It does work. However, it will slide around until it is completely dry. So if you choose to use a cool temp glue gun here rather than this, that's probably going to be a better option for you, unless you have the time to work on your projects and let them dry and then come back to them. But I'll show you how to reinforce it with some hot glue also. So once it's framed up, I'm going to go flip it over on the back and then cut off the red, because I can clearly see it against the white from the canvas. And I'll just cut that, you know, just kind of trim it carefully. I don't want to damage the beautiful print, which I should have gotten a bigger size because it is gorgeous. And I'm just going to trim it, and there it looks like that. Then I'm going to take a little bit of hot glue and just smear it under there. Just going to smear it. I'm not going to make, you know, big bulky mess with that hot glue. Then I'll grab my tape measure, or my ruler, and make sure that I have everything spaced out correctly. I hold it in place with one hand, and then I'll go under it with a little hot glue to tag down the corners. I'm checking again, and I'll slide what I need to slide before it is set, and then I'm going to add some on this corner. And doing this in each corner is going to keep it in place while I put the extra glue underneath the long sides of the canvas. Oh, this is so cute. What a beautiful little print. Really is cute. And I know my retro fans are going to love the beautiful print. So I went into my embellishments and thought, you know what, these beautiful little matte colored buttons would be perfect for this. Very simple, still has that sweet childlike quality, and I think it just does a little something. What do you think? What do you think about using the buttons here? I think they're cute. They don't cover up or take away from what else we have going on in here. They're just really, I think they're sweet. So that's very easy to do. And you could always use little bows in the corners if you want. You don't have to do anything. Now I'm going to get that same dry brush, and I'm going to just, that ribbon has a little bit of fallout from Dollar Tree, so I'm just going to sweep that away, just clean that up. You can seal this with Mod Podge spray or sealer if you wanted to, but it's not necessary for my home, so I'll leave it as it is. I flipped it over, and we're going to make a very simple hanger for the back. A little hot glue, just a little piece of rickrack. It was right there, I had it. You can use something else if you want. And then I just put a little piece of scrap paper that I cut. You can see over there in the corner I cut that, and I'm just using that to help hold the little hanger pieces together while it dries. And then this is what this beautiful little piece is going to look like. There's our little sign with the buttons on it. That would be cute in a nursery, wouldn't it, for a baby? So cute. If you'd enjoyed these projects that we did today on a budget, I would really appreciate a thumbs up. It helps me to make more content that is geared toward
a holly deer basket. We're going to start off with some pieces of holly. These are just 2 pieces that are thrifted. This one is actually a candle ring, and they're just kind of plasticky. Not a problem. This is a little deer I've had in my Christmas collection for years. And I'm going to be needing some floral foam. Here is a little basket. It is a very shallow basket. I don't know how to exactly describe it to you, but I thrifted it. And down in the bottom, we're going to be placing our foam. So I'm just going to put these pieces, and I got this, these foam pieces are actually some that I've recycled from other arrangements, but you can get them from Dollar Tree in a 4-pack. And I'll just attach those down to this basket with some pipe cleaners. Going to go right over the top and then just through the weave of the bottom. And I will continue on here. So this is some thick double stick mounting tape, and I'm just going to put it over the holes in the bottom and cut some floral pick pieces that were left over. I'm going to cut these on a slant so they almost have like a pointy tip. And we'll use these to attach this little deer down to the foam. I've added a little hot glue on the tip, and then I'm going to push it into the foam. It's going to pierce the foam, and it's going to help it to stick in there. And I'll do the same thing to the other side. You see it's cut at a slant. And then add a little bit of that glue. And I'm going to hold that tape in place when I push, and push right through it. Now, if you don't have a piece that you want to put onto yours that has the holes in the bottom, you could always just wrap a pipe cleaner that is the same color around it to hold it in place, or you could just sit it in the top if you're not going to be moving your arrangement. I've got some leftover foliage from another project. I like the dark green color, and I'm going to use it to cover up the green on the blocks, on these foam blocks. You could always paint the blocks if you wanted to, but these are actually not the right type of blocks for artificial foliage. They're actually more like a wet block that you would use in a live arrangement, and so they peel and flake very easily. And I found the best way to do that is just not to paint them and use pins to attach things down or wrap them. That works best for me. But you know, you do whatever technique that you have used and that has worked for you in the past. And you see he fits nicely down in there. And also add a little hot glue underneath his legs and his body to attach him down. Now this is not resin, this is actually a little ceramic piece, and I did find him at the thrift store. So mainly what you're seeing is going to be thrift store finds for this project. I'm going to take the holly picks and place these around. Now I pulled them all off of that ring, and I just pulled them off into little sections, and thankfully they had nice firm plastic so that they pick straight into the foam without any difficulty. This is another one of those things where if you're not going to be moving this around a lot, this will be perfect because you don't have to worry about anything falling out. You can take your floral picks and put these in here, or you can attach a little of leftover picks from another arrangement, the metal stem part, and use those as picks to put into your foam if you would like to do that. But for me, this process worked, and yeah, it was just really simple to do for this one. Everything's pretty much pre-cut. All I had to do was just pluck it off the ring and just use it in here. So keep in mind when you are out thrifting, or you've found a clearance sale someplace, or you're at Dollar Tree, that you can repurpose things. You don't have to use them exactly how it is advertised for them to be used. Use your imagination and think of other ways that you can use them, and go ahead and give it a shot. If it doesn't work for you, pull it out and start over. No problem. Besides, I'm not gluing these in, so you know I can pull these out and use these on another project, which is probably what I will do. It's a very cute arrangement though, and I think it makes a cute little centerpiece, as you can see right through it. So no obstacles when you're sitting across the table from someone eating. And I will give you a look in just a minute and show you how this is looking so far. And of course, I always like to go a little bit full and overboard with my projects, as it remains budget friendly for me, because so much of what I find is thrifted, and I can easily put the pieces in and take them out and reuse them. And not only that, but I pay such a small amount for them that having multiple uses is really, really a benefit. It really stretches the dollar. This is a thrifted piece of fern pick that I found, and I am just going to cut down the pieces. Now these are, the actual fern piece are very feathery and light. They are plastic, but they're very thin. But I want to make sure that when I'm cutting these, I leave some of that main branchy piece in there, because that will allow me to actually pick it in if I need to. I don't want to leave any extra little fluff and stuff that I don't have to. So some of these will be the bigger pieces, and I'll leave them on that stem like I said, because we're going to use that to our benefit, and put it into the foam here and there, mainly on the outsides of it, or toward the outside where the basket edge is, just like this, because it's a flyaway and it's very pretty. And then again on the other side. This is not exactly a symmetrical arrangement, but it's pretty close to it. I'm kind of rather mirroring what's going on each side. Now for these pieces, I'm going to just do the same thing that I was mentioning to you. Grab a pick from something else that you've already used, cut a piece of that off, and use that to pick it down into your floral foam. Because they're so feathery, they're not going to stick in that foam by themselves, so we can build them up just a little. I save these when I pluck flowers off. I like to save the pieces to use again. I just have a big jar, and I have a bunch of these in here. So this, so far, is how it looks. I'm going to add something to the top. You know, you could stop at any point that you would like. These are some picks that I have had for a while, and really because of the style of them, couldn't quite figure out how I wanted to place them. They look like holly berries, but the leaf itself almost looks like a grapevine leaf, and it wasn't fitting into my idea of, I don't know, the other things that I've already made and decorated. So I decided to go ahead and use it at this point in a little bit different of a way than I would normally use it. And you see, if you have those wiry pieces, you can just make those little tendrils or those little curly pieces, just wind them onto a pencil or a screwdriver, whatever you have, if you need to fix those if they straighten out for some reason. I'll just use a zip tie to attach these almost like a swag across each other and slightly to the side. You can put yours in the middle or off to the other side over there, or you could just leave it off completely if you just want more of a rustic look. But for this being winter and also a Christmas idea, I wanted it to be just a bit more festive, and I think that adding these berries to the top will do that. And they look close enough, you know, I mean, you can imagine like a holly berry would be, you know, the red color, and they're shiny. So I thought, well, you know, this will work. So this is from Dollar Tree. These are just these little wooden pieces, little cutouts. I'm going to use a damp baby wipe and a little bit of that to make a light stain. If you're wondering, using a damp baby wipe will make it a lighter stain than it would if you painted it on with a brush. And that's the idea that I wanted here. Then you can just build your coverage up between layers and make it as dark as you want. I'm also going to take a little wood round. Now I believe you can get these at Dollar Tree. And I'm going to color this one and let it dry completely. And once both of these pieces are dry, I'll use a little bit of glue. And normally I would tell you do not use hot glue on top of a piece that you've waxed because it won't stay on, but this is very, very lightweight, and I don't think it's going to be a problem. In fact, this project I actually did a few months ago, and it's still hanging there, still doing what it's supposed to do, so it worked all right in this instance. All right, then I'll just place that right in the middle, and you can always do the back too if it's going to be facing both directions. So far, this is how it looks, and I decided, you know what, to make it a little more rustic and a little more woodland, let's add another element in here. So I've got these, which came out of something I got from Target years ago. It was like a sled, and it had a bunch of different pine cones and ribbon in it. And I saved these little woody branches because they look really good and natural to me in these projects. So I'm just going to add those here and there to complete this project. Vintage rustic, if you want to call it that. Little different spin, I think, but with the holly, I think it definitely looks vintage. I appreciate y'all getting through this video with my crackly, scratchy voice, and for being part of this journey. It has meant so very much to me.